Morning. Everybody doing good? Good. This is Nate McCartney. He was leading worship this morning, just in case you didn't know that. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Philip, and I'm the pastor here, and I'm glad that you're with us this morning. How many of you are glad that it's rain and not snow? Yeah, several of you. Yeah. I could have done either one of those, but I am glad it's rain. It's definitely a kind of a mugginess outside, isn't it? Because it's 40 degrees. It should be cold, but it's kind of muggy, a little bit. Yeah, kind of a little bit. Yeah. So there you go. How many of you have been watching the Olympics? Yep, I've been watching the Olympics. My wife is a huge fan of the Olympics. Very big fan of the Olympics. We have a subscription to Peacock for this month so that she can watch anything she wants to watch because they don't cover it all and she wants to watch certain things. Can I have a little more light in the room? And and so she's very excited about that. This is a picture of Breezy, who is a United States lady that won gold on that particular thing. Yeah. Those are just cool pictures, aren't they? Like if you've ever skied, that's what you want to look like. Yeah, like 3 years ago, I started snowboarding, okay? And when I'm doing really good, this is what I think I look like. Yeah, that's me. You know, if I was to go right now to Italy to see this week of Olympics, right? And I was to show up and buy gear and say, I'm competing, I would not do very well at all. No prep over my entire life, because these people have been prepping their entire lives. If you listen to their story, some of them started when they were 5 snowboarding, and then when they got into middle school, they started doing tricks and started competing, and now they're competing on the world stage. So it's kind of a progression of development over a period of time that gets them to this point, and it's pretty remarkable the things that they do. I really like watching the snowboarding. Anything to do with snowboarding, I like to watch it. I also like the skiing. I like the speed skiing and the flips that they do and all that kind of stuff. I like that too. I'm just not really into the ice skating that much, the interpretive, dancing stuff. I think it's amazing. I've never ice skated a day in my life, but I just think, yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Curling, I don't understand that either. And I don't really understand how that came to be a sport. But it's like, if they want to sweep somewhere, I have a house. I mean, I'd put a bowl on the floor and kind of push it so they, like that. I just don't get it. But I'm sure that there's something I'm missing with the curling, right? I feel like, and I'm sure that they're great athletes, so I really respect them. But when I'm watching curling, I'm like, well, I'm not athletic and I can do that. I feel like that might be something that I could do in the Olympics, do that particular thing. Yeah, it's kind of like shuffleboard. Yeah, anyway, we're going to move on. Move on. Turning your Bibles to Daniel chapter 6. Daniel chapter 6. Daniel chapter 6. And Daniel chapter 6 is a story in the Bible that most people know. If they've had any time in church, they have heard this story many times. It is Daniel and the lion's den. And usually the pictures that we have in the Bible storybooks have Daniel as a very young guy in the lion's den. I want to let you know that he's really between the age of 83 and probably 95, somewhere in there. If I was put in a corner and had to put an age on it, he's probably 88, 87 when this story occurred. So he's an older man, and he must be in good shape because he is rocking it in the political world. He's very well liked by the powers that be, and they're thinking about promoting him. So he still has it, still has his mind, still has his physicality. He lives in a house where you have to walk upstairs, and he prays 3 times a day from this room. So he's walking up these stairs and coming down these stairs, and they're not wooden, nice, soft stairs. They're really hard stairs. So this is a guy that is really still in shape and good health and has a good mind. And so the text starts with verse 1, of course, and it says, "It pleased Darius to set over the kingdom 120 satraps to be throughout the whole kingdom." So Darius is organizing the kingdom, and over them 3 high officials, of whom Daniel was one, to whom these satraps should give an account so that the king might suffer no loss. So the king is making sure there's good people in place, people that are qualified to be in those positions, that will look over his kingdom so that he can think about other things and not have to worry about that stuff. And verse 3, then this Daniel became distinguished above all the other high officials and satraps because of an excellent spirit in him, and the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. So if you remember last week, Belshazzar said, if you interpret this particular handwriting on the wall, I will make you the third in the kingdom. And here, Darius, the new regime that has come in, he has noticed Daniel, and he says, look, this guy in his 80s is just brilliant and awesome and kind of a cut above, and I think I'm going to promote him to be over the whole kingdom, and that way he and I can just talk, and he can take care of all the details, and I can take care of some things that I just really want to focus on. That's pretty significant considering that Daniel is Jewish. This king knows that he's been conquered by the previous kingdom, Babylon, and he trusts him this much. It's a remarkable thing for him to think he's going to, he might promote him to be over the whole kingdom. There are some people in the kingdom that don't like this. The other people working with Daniel and the satraps up underneath him, they're jealous of him. One, they're probably a lot younger than he is. They're wondering, this guy, why is he being promoted? Second, we are Persians and he is a Jew, and I'm not sure that this is a good idea, so they don't like it for that. Another reason is they would like to be over second in command over the whole kingdom. I mean, wouldn't you? Maybe not. I would. I think there's some things that I could do differently that would be better for the whole country if I was in the second position. But, that's just me imagining things. But here he is, and so they're jealous. And so what they do is they go and they begin to look at Daniel to see if there's anything about Daniel that they could bring before the king so that he will not be promoted. And so they look into his life, and they decide that they can't find anything. So what they do is they say, well, he's very religious, and he prays 3 times a day. Maybe we can use that against him. Because if people can't find something wrong with you, they will go to your religion to make that the problem. All right? And so they went to the king, and they said, look, King Darius, you're a great king. Here's what we think you should do. We think you should write a decree that for the next 30 days that all people should pray to you. They should not pray to their gods. If they have anything they want to pray to their gods, they should come to you with that request, and they should pray to you instead of their religion. And so King Darius was like, okay, let's write it into law. And so they wrote the law, they signed it, it became official. The decree went out, it went to Daniel, he heard about it, and Daniel really just went about his day as normal. He went home that day, opened up his windows, began to pray. He kind of ignored the decree just to pray to the king because it was against what he believed. And so these satraps that had the king do this was watching him, and they knew that he would pray. They knew that he would pray. And so they called him, they brought him before the king, and that brings us to verse 16. And this is what verse 16 says. Then the king commanded, and Daniel was brought and cast into the den of lions. The king declared to Daniel, may your God, whom you serve, continually deliver you. Now, he said that phrase before Daniel is put into the den of lions. Interesting thing about this verse, cast into the den of lions, is actually the same phrase as chapter 3, where Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were cast into the fiery furnace. And so if you remember from that message, that the fiery furnace was up on a hill and they threw the guys into it, so there was a fall, right? And then there was a door at the bottom. So what they're doing is they're taking Daniel, who is 83 plus years old, probably 88 years old. They're taking an old man and they're throwing him into a den of lions. So he's going to free fall to the bottom. This does a couple of things. One, most people, when they're thrown into a den of lions, will hit the bottom and already be wounded, and the lions will get them pretty quick. Not that that is even needed. I don't know if you know anything about lions, but when they're hungry, they're going to get you, and they move pretty fast. Okay? They move pretty fast. And so he's cast into this den. He's thrown down into it. Not lowered, he's thrown down into it. Verse 17, and a stone was brought and laid on the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet and with the signet of his lords, that nothing might be changed concerning Daniel. I know a lot of people say that way the king couldn't come back and open the thing, but this is also another reason. In their minds, they didn't want Daniel climbing out of there either, right? So they're keeping him in the den. Verse 18, then the king went to his palace and spent the night fasting. No diversions were brought to him, and fled from him. Then, at the break of day, the king arose and went in haste to the den of lions. And as he came near to the den where Daniel was, he cried out in a tone of anguish. The king declared to Daniel, O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to deliver you from the lions? And then Daniel said to the king, O king, live forever. My God sent his angel and shut the lion's mouth, and they have not harmed me, because I was found blameless before him and also before you, O king. I have done no harm. Then the king was exceedingly glad and commanded that Daniel be taken up out of the den. So he's drawn up with ropes that shows that he did fall when they cast him in. And no kind of harm was found on him, because he had trusted in his God. There's no broken bones. No broken bones at all. I don't know if you know this or not, but my wife currently has a boot on her foot. My wife, prone to accidents. This week, I don't know how she did it. Well, I kind of do. She broke one of her toes in our basement. That's what she did. The difference between her and me is this. When she breaks something, it's just an accident, and she's really intelligent. Me, I'm dumb. Car rolls over my foot, left it in, just totally dumb. Me, stupid, get hurt because of stupidity. She just gets hurt, and she's broken. Here's an 88-year-old man that is thrown into a pit, and he doesn't have one broken bone. That's a miracle that he made it to the bottom. It's also a miracle that the lion's mouth were closed. It's absolutely a miracle. Verse 24 says, and the king commanded, and those men who had maliciously accused Daniel were brought and cast in. They were thrown in to the den of lions, they, their children, their wives. And before they reached the bottom of the den, the lions overpowered them and broke all their bones in pieces. So you can see that the lions were hungry. And this is an absolutely amazing miracle, isn't it? Lion's mouth, no bones broken. Daniel's just fine. He comes out. He doesn't even seem hurt. There's a lot of parallels. Like if we geeked out this morning, you know, we could geek out between Daniel chapter 3 and Daniel chapter 6 and see a ton of parallels between the stories, how God works and things like that. In fact, in this story, it says an angel of the Lord came and was with Daniel that night, right? Well, there was an angel in the fire. It's the same angel. So Daniel got to spend a night not with the lions, but with Jesus in the den. That is absolutely amazing. And so there's a lot of parallels here. And we think, man, the miracle is just awesome. And it is awesome. But I want to tell you this morning that that is not the most amazing thing about the story. It is not the most magnificent work of God in the story. It just isn't. It is a moment. It's a great moment. It's a moment where, if I was in the den of lions and was brought back up, I would be very excited. I would be very excited that I wasn't eaten by them. I would be very, very excited and be celebrating the miracle. So I'm not trying to say that the miracle isn't like a big thing. I'm just telling you there's something bigger in the passage that is more meaningful, that shows the power of God more than someone being saved in a den of lions. And this is it. Look at verse 4. It says, then the high officials and the satraps sought to find a ground for complaint against Daniel with regard to the kingdom, but they could find no ground for complaint or any fault because he was faithful, and no error of fault was found in him. No error, no nothing. These guys audited his life. They scrutinized his leadership. They checked his books. They checked his routines. They looked at him, and they just couldn't find any dirt on Daniel. None at all. No dirt at all. He wasn't a part of the Epstein files. His name wasn't even in there. Wasn't even brought up. Yeah. He didn't pay someone to keep quiet because of an inappropriate relationship that he had with them. He didn't do that. He didn't do that. Didn't have to. He didn't live that way. He wasn't embezzling money through daycares. There was nothing. There was nothing. Nothing at all. Nobody could find anything at all with him. That is an amazing feat for someone that has been in politics ever since he was 16 years old. 16 years old, and this guy is consistently good and squeaky clean. He didn't take bribes from companies to do whatever they wanted to do. He didn't take bribes from other places to do what they wanted him to do. He didn't. He always did what God wanted him to do in the moment, and he stuck with that. That's pretty amazing. To step on that even one more step, in verse 3 it says, or add to it, then this Daniel became distinguished above all the other high officials and satraps. He became distinguished. An older guy became distinguished among the people that were younger than him. And I'm not talking about people in their 20s. He's 88 years old. It could be people in his 60s. His king is like 62 years old, Darius is. So everybody under him is younger, and he's become distinguished. There's something special about him. This is extremely rare, isn't it? It is extremely rare for a person to go through their entire life being so dedicated to God that there is nothing that you can find to bring up dirt on them. It is very rare for someone to go through their entire life and still have their wits about them when they're at a certain age. I'm not trying to say anything about people there. I'm just saying he had the mindset to run a country. Had a mindset to run a country. Extremely rare. The bar is high. And so I submit to you this morning that achievement is greater than the miracle in the den of lions. That achievement is greater. God's power working in his life every day of his life, because he was following him, because he was praying to him, because every challenge he depended on God to get through it. Every decision that he made, he was depending on God to get through it. Everything he thought, he was depending on God to get through it. Everything he was doing, he was depending on God to get through it, made him a remarkable man. It was the daily manifestation of the power of God every moment of his life. And see, here's what I think. I think that a lot of people want a miracle, but very few want an achievement that requires doing the right thing while no one is watching. And the most powerful thing that can happen in your life is to do the right thing while nobody is watching. That is God working in your life on a daily schedule. Schedule wasn't the word I was looking for. I was looking for something else. Yeah, basis. On a daily basis. Thank you. And that's such a smaller word than schedule. Such a smaller. Yeah. On a daily basis, you and I can live in the power of God in a more remarkable way by being faithful in the little things than if we just have one moment with one miracle. And let me add something to that. The den of lions would have never happened if Daniel had not been faithful daily. It wouldn't have happened. Would not have happened. His faithful life led him to the den of lions. You might be thinking, Philip, now that you said it that way, I'm not so sure I want to be faithful to God. I don't want a den of lions in my future, right? Well, you do. Because when you're in the den of lions, that's when you get the special miracle. Because God is honoring the life that you've lived your entire life. I think we sometimes have a misconception that courage comes in the moment. Well, courage doesn't come in the moment. Courage happens because you've lived a life of faithful courage with God. You're courageous every day. You're courageous when you're alone. You're courageous when you're with friends. You're courageous to be who God created you to be. You're courageous to honor Him with your life. You are constantly being courageous in the little things. And so when the big thing happens, of course you're going to stand. Of course you're going to be courageous, because courage doesn't just happen in the moment. I might put it to you this way. You don't wake up one day courageous. Courage comes from consistency in character. Consistency in character. This trial in the den of lions revealed who Daniel really was. And that's what every trial does for us. Every trial that comes our way reveals who we are. It shows us if our relationship with God is strong, or if it's medium, or if it's weak. It gives us a gauge to how close we really are with God. And if we are really close with God, what happens is the trial happens, the den of lions happens, and it's okay. You can cast us in there, but we know we're in God's hands. You can leave us in there overnight, but we're really in God's hands. We can be absolutely destroyed, but we already know we're in God's hands, because even if we lose our life, we go to something better. And so courage comes from daily being courageous enough to live by the Scripture when everything in our culture is telling us to live differently. And can I just say this too? I'm going to say it anyway. Your flesh is trying to get you to live differently than God wants you to live. And sometimes courage is telling yourself, I'm not going to do that. Holy Spirit, guide me in this moment and help me overcome my flesh so that I'm not following it, but instead I'm following you. Yes, the most courageous thing that you can do in your life is to look at the mirror and tell yourself, no. No. I'm not going to do that. Faithfulness. Faithfulness. When this crisis came, Daniel did not become someone new. I want you to look at verse 10. Verse 10 says this. When Daniel knew that the document had been signed, he went to his house where he had windows in his upper chamber open toward Jerusalem. He got down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed and gave thanks before his God as he had done previously. He kept his spiritual rhythm with God, even though the world was telling him not to, even though there was pressure not to. He kept his spiritual rhythm with God. He didn't change. He remained the same. He went on as normal. So a couple of things. What is normal for you? What is normal for you? I can say this for you, for a lot of you that I see here every week, it's normal for you to come here on Sunday morning, and I think that's awesome. Sometimes on Monday and Sunday afternoon, I'm wondering why in the world you come to hear this. Because I listen back and I hear all the mistakes, and I'm wondering, this is nuts. I don't even sound intelligent. Why do you even come back, right? Why do you come here? But you come here, this is part of your rhythm. So when you leave here, is the same level of holiness part of your rhythm during the week? Like Sunday afternoon, are you watching the football game with the same level of holiness that you would have in church? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the way through the week, are you living your life with the same level of holiness and dedication to God and trying to have a personal relationship with Him? Because Sunday morning isn't enough. This isn't enough. It's very needed, because every now and then you need to go out to eat. Right? You need to go out to eat and be served. Yeah. Now, ladies, you can't use that with your husband this week. I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I want everybody to be my friend. All right. Yeah. Sometimes you really need a home-cooked meal. Let me tell you something about a home-cooked meal. A home-cooked meal generally is more nutritious than what you buy in a restaurant. Right? Now, I love Firebirds. But meals at home are often more nutritious. And so when you consistently follow God every day with a meal from His Word that is just you and Him, He's in front of you like a Japanese restaurant, just serving you, throwing you the stuff right onto your plate so you can eat it. And He's fixing it right in front of you. There's nothing like that personal moment between you and God in quiet time with Him. When you're praying, when you're studying, when you're doing things, He is your personal chef in your home. And He's feeding you stuff that I can never feed you. And it's great. Absolutely incredible. So you keep that with you. That is what you do. He went with what was normal. So what is normal for you? Is that normal for you? Is it normal for you? Second, if someone that was your enemy, and everybody in here has enemies. Every single one of us has enemies. Somewhere, someone doesn't like you. Now, I don't want you to go home today and cry about that. Okay? Because there's a lot of people that like you, and sometimes we think the world is ending because this person over here doesn't like me, but the world isn't ending. There are other people that actually like you. The enemies are wrong. The people that like you are right. At least I hope so. Right? So enemies are always going to be there. If an enemy decided to do an audit of your life, could they find dirt on you? Could they find dirt on you with your complaining? Could they find dirt on you if they went to whatever browser you use and they looked at your search history? If they were over your shoulder as you were scrolling through and what you stopped on your phone, on your tablet, on your computer, would they be able to find something that they could use on you? Is there things at work where you kind of just do things kind of under the table, maybe with money, or something else that you know you're not doing the right thing at work? Maybe you're slacking off until the boss comes. Maybe that's your thing. Is there anything in your life that your enemy could use against you. You and I need to live our lives in such a way there is nothing that anybody can find to use against us. There is no dirt that can come up that would cause us to have a different level of life. We just live in such a way, and our relationship is so close to God that you just can't find anything. That is the goal. Well, you say that bar is way too high. Yes, it is. And the bar that is above that is the holiness of God, which you and I can never reach until we enter into glory. But God expects you and me to have a relationship with Him, to have a walk with Him, to eat spiritual food during the week, to be consistent in our faith and in our courage, and reach for that bar every day. And if we almost touch it, that's great, because let me just tell you, you never get to grab a hold of it. You never get to grab a hold of it. Don't mean to be a Debbie Downer. If you're Debbie in the room, I'm not trying to say anything about you. You never get to hold it. You're always reaching for it, because the best thing for you and me is to have to reach for something every day of our life. And what we're reaching for is holiness and courageousness and a vibrant relationship with God. That's what we are reaching for. So how did Daniel do this? Well, he prayed, kind of covered that. But here's a couple of New Testament passages that gives us really 3 words. I can't believe this. They all start with F. I hardly ever do this. It just happened. Philip didn't sit in his office, what could be another F? It just happened this way, and I noticed it last night because that's how intelligent I am. So here's the first one. Hebrews 12, therefore, since we are surrounded by so great a cloud of witnesses, let us also lay aside every weight and sin which clings so closely, and let us run with endurance the race that is set before us. Check this out. Looking to Jesus, focusing on Jesus, the founder and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy that was set before him endured the cross, despising the shame, and is seated at the right hand of the throne of God. It is a focus on Jesus. See, Daniel's focus from the time he was a young guy in Jerusalem, all the way to Babylon, all the way to the Persian Empire, his focus has always been on God and what he wants. And if you and I want to live lives where people can't find dirt on us, we focus on God and pleasing him. Here's the second verse. 1 Timothy 6:12 says, fight the good fight of the faith. Take a hold of the eternal life to which you are called, and about which you made the good confession in the presence of many witnesses. It's fight. If you aren't fighting to follow Jesus, you're not following Jesus. It is a fight to get up in the morning and not do what my flesh wants to do. It is a fight in the morning not to react the way I want to react. It is a fight in the morning to kind of not grab a hold of something that I shouldn't grab a hold of. It is a fight, and the fight begins with devotions. The fight begins with a prayer time. The fight begins with a mindset. I am going to focus on Jesus today, and I'm going to fight to do it. The world, I don't want them to distract me. I don't want my flesh to distract me. I don't want any distractions. I'm going to fight to keep my eyes on God. And sometimes it's, Lord, okay, I just need to really get my eyes focused back on you, because right now it's somewhere else. And it's work. It's work to stay faithful to God. Does he help you? Does he empower you? Absolutely. But it's work to stay in that direction. Here's the last one. Philippians 3:14 says, I press on toward the goal for the prize of the upward call of God in Christ Jesus. This one's finish. And like I said, I didn't make these, it just happened. This is finish. My eye is toward the goal to finish well. I want to finish well. If my eye isn't on the goal to finish well, I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to do something else. I'm not going to finish well. But my eye is on the goal to finish well. So focus, fight, and finish. So now what I need is 2 Volunteers. I'll take Brad Ratledge. He likes to be on stage. And you mind coming up? You. Yeah. Okay. All right. I want you to stand right here, okay, and face this direction. Face me. I want you to stand right beside him. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. I don't know if you know this or not, but back in the day, I was an athlete. I was. Yeah. It was first grade. First grade. And I was on a basketball team, okay? And so my job on the basketball team was to dribble the ball to half court and then try to pass it to somebody on the team. That was what I was told to do, all right? So I would dribble the ball, and every now and then there would be some defenders. Back then it was just one, okay? So you can step back a minute. Yeah, just stay right there. It was just one. And I would come up to the defender, and in my mind, I would be like, I got to get past him, right? And so Philip, because he saw people on TV, Michael Jordan, greatest basketball player of all time. No. And we can talk about it later. I like LeBron, but 6 rings, that would start it. But I'm messing with you, you know, it's the thing. So Michael Jordan is who, so I'll be like, you know, he does the basketball like this. The problem is I don't have the rhythm of Michael Jordan. And so I'm coming toward my defender like this, and what do you think the defender does to first grade Philip when he's doing like this? He just takes his hand, grabs the ball, and goes in the other direction. He doesn't even swat at it, right? And so each game I was like, man, I can get around him. So I developed in first grade this little move where I would go like this and kind of push. The problem with this is that while Philip was pushing, he wasn't coordinated enough to keep the ball. So the ball's bouncing off, and this guy's taking the ball. It was absolutely it was horrible. Now, in high school, in gym class, they made you play basketball. So I was on basketball team in high school, wasn't full court. I would have the ball, a little more coordinated in high school, still not an athlete, a little more coordinated. I could actually hit baskets in high school, 1 out of 20, but it still went in. And so I would be playing, right? And I would come up and I'd learn kind of to maneuver and stuff like this, but I would approach a defender and I would think this, all right, I got to get past him. So I got to get past him. So my eyes would be right on him, and he would come at me. They would come at me, right? And they would always take the ball. Always take the ball. I couldn't get past them, right? And so I learned I needed to pass it sooner and stuff like that because defenders were preventing me from making a goal. Recently, I've been reading a book by Steph Curry. I don't care if you like him or not. I like him. I think he's a great basketball player. And I've been reading about his life. It's a big book, lots of pictures. Big book, lots of pictures. It's pretty neat. I don't really get to read books with pictures in it, but these are some pretty cool pictures. So Steph Curry has talked about his approach to the game, and he's talked about defenders because, you know, I don't know if you've watched him or not, but when he's on the court, there's at least 2 on him. That means there's somebody open, but there's at least 2 on him, and I've seen situations where 3 people are covering him and they're not covering anybody else because he is really, really good. And so in this book, he talks about defenders, and he talks about his approach to making baskets and why and what he does in order to make the goal. Because, see, the goal isn't to get past the defenders. The goal is to make a shot. Okay? So this is what he says. I block out all distractions, even the person guarding me. He can wave his arms and call me every name in the book, but I just smile and wait as the solution to the problem, how to get the ball to the basket, presents itself. Then I take it. Ever since I've read this, I've watched some of his clips on YouTube, and he does that every single time. The people can be waving their arms, yelling at him, They don't never have their hands in their pockets. They're waving at him, stuff like this. He will step back and pass it to somebody. Those defenders will look at where he passed it every single time. They haven't learned not to do that. They look at where he passed it, and in a skinny minute, he is around them right here. This guy, no, the guy doesn't even do that. He passes the ball, and he shoots it, and it's done. It's absolutely done. By the time the defenders catch up with him, it's way too late. He does that play over and over and over and over again because the goal isn't to focus on the defenders. The goal is to hit shots because points win a game. Points win a game. It doesn't matter. Nobody talks about if you get past the defender. Man, you're after me, aren't you? This isn't football. Wow.
Sorry, man. You all right?
Oh, my chest. Oh. The goal isn't to get past the defender. The goal is to make the basket. Here's what happens with Christians. Christians get focused on the defense rather than the goal. And they get so distracted by the defense that they think they need to get around it. They think they need to prove the defense wrong. They think they need to show up the defense. That's their mindset, and it distracts them from the goal. Do you know what Daniel did not do in this situation? When he received the edict that you could only pray to the king, he did not go, I'm going to post about this on social media. This is wrong, and here are 5 reasons why it's wrong. These people are after me. He didn't go up to the king and say, you don't know what they did. They did wrong. He didn't pull them in. He didn't talk to them at all, these people that are against him. He didn't do any of that because they were not the goal. Defeating them was not the goal. The goal was faithfulness to his God. He was focused. He fought for it. He went upstairs and he fought the fight that needed to be done on his knees and made the shot. Because this didn't matter. There are too many Christians getting distracted by the outrage of the day. They comment on the outrage of the day. They try to show why the outrage of the day is wrong. They list reasons for the outrage of the day, and all they are doing is trying to get past the defender, and they're not scoring for Jesus. And what we should do is say, all right, outrage of the day, pass the ball, get an opening for the goal, and then go for the goal. Give these people a hand. Yeah, thank you. Y'all did a great job. See, defenses are put in your way for your ego. Goals are put in your path for the honor and glory of Jesus. 2 different things. Getting past the defender, oh, I got past him. He's not as good of a player as I am. But getting a goal is saying, look at what God has done. Daniel's down on his knees fighting there, gets thrown into a den of lions, gets lifted out of the den of lions, and he was scoring the winning shot long before he was thrown into that den. The winning shots were day after day after day of consistently hitting the goal of faithfulness to Jesus, fighting the good fight, pressing toward the goal to get to where he was, and I'm going to say, blessed by God. And no distractions hindered him from doing that. How many times have you been distracted for the goal? I'll put it to you this way, and then we'll start to wrap this up. There's some marriages where one of the spouse people, man or woman, whichever one it is, are so focused on trying to change their spouse that they're missing the goals for their personal lives. Man, underwear's still on the floor. Lift the lid. Close the lid. He lifts the lid. He doesn't close the lid. Close the lid. And all of a sudden, those little items become the focus, and it's really defense. It's people waving their arms. It's trying to get you upset. It feeds your ego, because if you can get your spouse to do what you want them to do, then you are in control. And marriage isn't about control. First of all, that's another sermon. But in this particular situation, what you need to do is ignore the distraction and work on your own life, because the only person you can change is you. You can't change him. You can't change her. You can only change yourself. That's the only person you can change. And once you start ignoring the distraction, ignoring the defense that is being placed in front of you to ruin your marriage, to make you upset, you get through it. You start working on yourself. You start making baskets. You start scoring, if you will, in your relationship with Jesus, because you're getting closer and closer. And what happens at that moment is all of a sudden, all this stuff doesn't matter as much anymore, because now you're winning instead of losing all the time. If you're wondering why you're losing, it's because you're distracted by the defense instead of focusing on the goal. Are you with me? Focus on the goal. And the last time I checked in Scripture, the goal is to make you personally into the image of God. The goal isn't for you to make someone else into the image of God. Whew. That's hard to swallow, isn't it? Hard to swallow. So, what's distracting you this morning? What's the thing that keeps getting your attention? Gets you all riled up? What's the thing that's preventing you from making goals? What's that? Pray about that during the invitation. Let God speak to you so that you can begin to ignore it in your life. Let's pray.